My PA at the time came into my office and said, Hugh Jackman's done it in a gym in New York in slow motion. About half an hour later, I was in the gym and it was on TMZ. Then by the time I got home, it was on CNBC, ABC News, Fox, and it literally went crazy.
Andrew Salter is the co-founder and CMO of DIRTEA, a functional mushroom brand, and was featured in Forbes 30 Under 30. DIRTEA are the purest and most potent super mushroom extract powders, teas, and coffees proven to give you natural energy, strengthen your immunity, and help you feel calm and focused.
There are mushrooms that can heal you, there's ones that can kill you, there's ones that can poison you, there's ones that can take you on a psychoactive journey. There are functional ones, and there are 6 that we focus on, which are the most researched, most nutrient dense, and they contain active compounds that when absorbed by the human body can do incredible things. We had lots of teething issues, like going out of stock, issues with packaging. Yeah, I mean, I remember there was a point where the supply chain really messed up. That was a really scary moment, and I wasn't sure we were going to recover it.
Take 1.
Take 2, I'd say.
And take 2. All right, so I just took these gummies. Should I feel something like within an hour, or it really takes time?
You have to tell me. You could be in your lowest moments, and you've got someone to turn to that isn't just your brother, but is in the business with you as well, so understands the entire dynamic. I think trust is a big thing as well. Like, I trust my life with my brother. I don't know if many business partnerships can use words to that level.
And in business,
yeah,
what's the biggest lesson you've learned?
The biggest lesson I've learned?
Andrew, in 2021, you launched DIRTEA. What is DIRTEA?
DIRTEA is the leading functional mushroom brand. We believe that functional mushrooms can transform your life, and we're leading the movement to get everyone drinking functional mushrooms every day.
Right. So before we deep dive into mushrooms, because I'm not incredibly educated about functional mushrooms, but you have this idea, right? And I've been into a lot of different events in which some of my friends, they have great ideas, but then the day after, probably they never mention them again. So how do you take this idea into a reality?
So I guess it all starts with a half moment. So my brother and I have had a real interest in prevention and what we sort of refer to as health intervention. So getting in control of your health, getting in front of it, and that comes from understanding it and realizing there are tools that exist out there where you can truly take control. So 8 years ago, we discovered these ancient ingredients. They became a massive part of our life and our lifestyle. Entrepreneurs at the time, we were building businesses as part of our venture studio. And we realized that there was a massive gap in the market as this wellness industry was growing. You know, it's a $7 trillion market. So we saw the opportunity. We did the research. We had a real love for the vision and the product. And we believed that was enough to really take something to market.
Interesting. Right now, I can confidently say that there is a common denominator, at least from the entrepreneurs that came to our show, between men and women. So men entrepreneurs or male entrepreneurs, they identify a gap in the market, which is very much logic-based. So in your case, you analyze the wellness space and you see this gap, no one is tapping into it. You believe in that, in exploiting that gap, and then you venture yourself and start a company based on the outcome of that analysis. But female entrepreneurs, they have a more emotional attachment to their companies because they arrive to that conclusion, meaning identifying the gap, because they would have been the perfect consumers for that product or service if we're talking about consumer goods. So there are different reasons why we both arrive to the same conclusion. Now, I'm very interested to know what or how did your life look like before this? So you were not a nutritionist, you were not a biochemist. What were you doing before starting DIRTEA?
So my brother and I have been in business together now 14 years. The first thing we ever did is we created one of the largest social movements of our generation called Feeling Nuts. It was called
Feeling Nuts. I like the name.
It was called Feeling Nuts because it was inspiring and empowering people to check their balls for testicular cancer.
Okay. And why that?
So essentially, if you catch testicular cancer early, it's 100% curable. The problem becomes when it starts to spread. And there's a massive ignorance that exists, particularly amongst men, when it comes to testicular cancer. You know, when you think of cancer, you think of something that's going to affect you in older age. Anytime you see messaging around cancer, it's always like the doom. It's always the connotation of death. We met basically a mother whose son lost his life at the age of 18 because he was unaware of how to look for symptoms. Had he caught it early enough, he would still be here today. So it really struck an emotional chord with us. And we decided we wanted to create a movement to educate men. It was in 2014. So it was a time that YouTube and Vine were like the biggest social media platforms, and the influence of those days was YouTubers and Viners. So we wanted to challenge them with, are you feeling nuts? So how nuts are you going to go with this message? And that was essentially get people to check, but also how crazy, how entertaining can you be with the message? And it got to 157 countries. 1 billion people got behind the movement, and it ended up with a TV show on Channel 4. Wow. Hosted by Jack Whitehall and James Corden, called the Feeling Nuts Comedy Night.
But would you catalog this as an NGO?
It was a campaign and a movement. It had a long-term vision to become a platform and a conduit to get people to take control of their health through awareness and education. It was never about raising money.
Okay.
We took it so far and we decided we didn't want to go on that pathway. It was mainly centered around philanthropy, and we were like, let's make money first before we start doing charity stuff. And then to a degree, we become full circle around with DIRTEA, because the essence of what Feeling Nuts is very similar to the ideology of DIRTEA.
How old were you when you launched this venture?
20. Well, we started it, planning it, when I was about 19 years old.
Okay.
It went into the market when I was 24.
And right after this, you founded DIRTEA?
No. So from Feeling Nuts, we decided not to carry it on after the first year. So huge success on social media. MTV said it almost broke the internet. Huge stars got behind it, from Hugh Jackman to The Rock to Ed Sheeran to Jay-Z. It was massive in America. It was on CNN. It was on Fox News. Huge success. We realized we didn't want to take it any further. But it won a lot of awards. So I think we won about 18 different awards, including, like Cannes Lions. So all the kind of big branding, marketing awards. So it created a lot of fame for us in that world. And we were known as the brothers that really understood social media. How do you connect with the new generation? How do you build community? How do you build brands? So we used to get a lot of inbounds after winning those awards. And at that point, we didn't want to start our own thing. So we decided to form a venture studio and work with some of these entrepreneurs to help them build their businesses. And it gave us the opportunity to own minority stakes in multiple businesses, whilst having a fundamental role in their journey.
A lot of entrepreneurs, especially in the consumer space, they want to get to this viral moment that everyone gets to know them, and obviously ideally collaborate with such artists. What's the biggest lesson learned from your first venture? Because you obviously achieved that.
Yeah, it's such a good question. So I always thought that, and I still believe that, celebrities, influencers, cultural influencers are the difference between something becoming a phenomena or a movement or gaining fame. And that is something that exists, but it's not an overnight sensation. I remember it was a long way to go before we had a tipping point with Feeling Nuts. And I remember a lot of celebrities were joining the movement. And the way you joined, by the way, is you grabbed your crotch, you posted a photo online, you said, I'm feeling nuts.
Jesus.
Yeah, exactly. We started it by actually pulling our own trousers down in Oxford Street. And we challenged, I can't even remember who it was, but one of the bands was 5 Seconds of Mars.
Yeah.
I think 5 seconds. No, 5 Seconds of Summer, I think they're called, or something like that.
Okay.
And they actually responded to the challenge. But the amount of celebrities that got behind it, and it didn't move the needle. And I remember there was a moment where my PA at the time came into my office and said, Hugh Jackman's done it in a gym in New York in slow motion. And I was like, great. Like, there's so many people who had done it. I was like, it's not going to do anything. And I remember about half an hour later, I was in the gym and it was on TMZ. Then by the time I got home, it was on CNBC, ABC News, Fox, and it literally went crazy. And it was that sensation. So I think there's no like secret, there's no tactic that specifically creates that viral moment. It's like almost throwing paint at the wall and seeing what sticks. As long as you've got a great product, a great message, a great vision, and you know how to utilize those tactics, and you have the right strategy, eventually you will get there, hopefully. But it's very unexpected at the moment it happens.
Interesting. So you launched this initiative, then you found your venture studio, and then you found DIRTEA. You never wanted to experience the corporate world?
As in have a job?
Yeah.
I think I've always seen myself as unemployable.
Always?
Always, yeah. Yeah, I've always wanted to be in control of my own destiny. I've been wildly ambitious since I was very young, very entrepreneurial from sort of the age of 14. I'd started very small businesses in school, selling to my school friends, made money very early on, not huge amounts of money, but, you know, more than anyone else probably at my school. And that was the life I always wanted to lead, you know. And when I finished school after my A-levels at 18, I took a year out to go and follow my dreams. And I never ended up going to university because the business ended up being successful and I got to live my dreams.
Interesting. What did your parents think of this?
So at first, they were terrified. You know, my brother and sister have both been to university. That's the conventional route. You know, I think my parents are particularly conventional in many ways. And to an extent, I think I'm not. But, you know, once they saw success a number of years later, then it was validated, right?
Do you think entrepreneurs are made or born?
I think born. I think that the level of intensity when it comes to like hard work, passion, resistance, learning how to fail. You know, I was listening the other day to a podcast with Howard. What's the name of the Starbucks founder? Has gone from my mind. Howard Schwartz.
We need quick answers here.
Howard Schwartz, yeah. And he was talking about the moment he got offered, when I say actually he's not the founder of Starbucks, he bought it from the original three founders. Yeah. And he was saying that it took him 200 investors before he got the money to buy Starbucks for like $3 million or whatever it was. And he said that if he hadn't had the coaching from, I think he was working for a company where he was a door-to-door salesman, and he had that coaching and rejection, there was no way he would have been able to go through all those rejections. I mean, 199 rejections before he actually raised the money. So, and that really struck a chord with me. You know, people say no to me all the time, right? And less so now, but in the beginning they say no. I don't really listen to the no's. I keep moving forward. And I think it takes a level of, you know, persistence and passion and hard work. I mean, you make so many sacrifices with your life, you know, particularly your social life, right? My life was very different to my school friends, and it still is, right? And I don't think that is something you can teach yourself or you learn. You know, I grew up as an athlete as well. You know, I was a competitive tennis player, so it's kind of ingrained in me. I think to a degree, you know, having supportive parents helps as well. You know, my parents made me think I could do anything, right? So I guess I've got that unconscious inner chatter that believes in myself and has that self-belief. And I think that's ingrained from me in the way I was raised and the way I was brought up. So it's all these components and all these elements that go from the way you were nurtured, what's ingrained in you that lead to your ability to go and do something like this. You know, lots of people today want to be entrepreneurs and they go online and it's a lot more accessible. It's easier to get to an audience. It's easy to switch on a channel, right? You know, like, you know, prior to our generation, right? If you wanted to be heard and seen, you had to spend a fortune advertising on TV, on billboards. Now you can spend a little bit of money on Facebook and Meta and Instagram and instantly reach an audience. So it's a lot more accessible, but you still need that drive.
When you were fundraising, did any investor challenge that you didn't go to university?
It's never been asked.
Interesting.
Never been asked. I don't remember the last person asked me, did I go to university?
Let's go back to mushrooms.
Yeah.
Most people are familiar, and when I mean most people, definitely my relatives and some of my friends, they're familiar with mushrooms as a cooking ingredient, but they don't know that mushrooms can have other benefits. So what's the difference in between the so-called cooking mushrooms and the functional mushrooms that you use in your blends?
So when I tell you about fungi, it will blow your mind because it's way beyond anything we know and understand, right, from when we're growing up. So there are over 4 million species of fungi, right? So when you start to think about mushrooms on toast and mushrooms on pizza, it goes way beyond that. There's 4 million species of fungi. So to put that into perspective, they outweigh plants 8 to 1. So for every species of plant, there's 8 species of fungi. There's 150,000 so far. So about 13%-ish that have been explained or named by scientists. Within this 150,000, there are mushrooms that can heal you. There's ones that can kill you. There's ones that can poison you. There's ones that can take you on a psychoactive journey. That's psilocybin. There are culinary ones, which you're referring to. And there are functional ones. So functional mushrooms, and there are 6 that we focus on, which are the most researched, most nutrient dense, and they contain active compounds that when absorbed by the human body can do incredible things, such as soothing stress and anxiety. They can regrow and regenerate brain cells. They can improve your focus, your recall, your creativity, your flow. They can strengthen your immune system. They can activate natural collagen in the body, hydrate the skin. They can even improve your testosterone and your sex drive. They're amazing for sleep. There's not much they can't do, but when you find the right functional mushroom and the one that's right for you, it can truly transform your health.
So each mushroom is related to a different benefit.
So they all contain different active compounds and similar ones. They all, I'd say, are pretty good for your immune system, so modulating your immune system. But what I tend to say is they all have their own individual superpower. So, for example, the most popular, most well-known functional mushroom is lion's mane. We refer to that as the focus mushroom. So that specifically targets the brain. So it's one of the few things in nature that can pass through the blood-brain barrier and feed nutrients directly to the brain. And that is the one that, is amazing for focus. Its superpower is kind of a brain functional superpower.
I have a friend of mine that is a skeptic about all these so-called superfoods or new discoveries of ingredients that can help various different functions of our life, and he's basically saying that they're all big marketing campaigns and they're based on a placebo. Are there big, solid, tested studies that support the benefits that you're mentioning now?
So your friend raises an amazing conversation that I think needs to happen on a big platform, right?
Yeah.
He's kind of right and he's wrong. I think when you look at the wellness industry, which I referred to before, it's a $7 trillion industry. It's lucrative, right? So anyone that wants to make money and build a brand and access an audience, wellness is the sector to be in right now. Unfortunately, it's too accessible. So you have ingredients and products that, you take mushrooms, for example, just because lion's mane mushroom is listed on the packaging doesn't mean you're going to get the benefit. It might not have the clinical dosage. It might have lots of filler in it. It might not have the active compounds that actually deliver the benefit. So that is where the marketing and the trend aspect takes over. But when you learn about fungi and you learn about functional mushrooms, the science starts to become undeniable. What's actually happening is these are ancient ingredients, and they've been consumed for thousands of years by, mainly like Eastern cultures.
Yeah.
And what's happened is modern science is now catching up with it. You're seeing a massive shift in terms of government's perception, scientists' perception, universities on functional health and preventative health. The way that, and this is a lot of the reason why my brother and I got into the space, is the way that we were raised was, I refer to my parents as conventional, right? If you think of our parents' generation, they take a conventional approach to health. So they consider things like cure and treatments, which essentially is waiting for something to occur, such as chronic pain or chronic symptoms, before they take action.
So it's a very reactive approach.
Exactly. And I'd say that dates back like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So a very recent time, exactly. Reactive approach. There's a massive shift that's happened, and that's because the access to information. I'd say that the pandemic accelerated this approach, and that is that there is a new view that it's better to be in front of disease, take control of health, have these morning routines, ingest these incredible functional ingredients, these ancient ingredients. And that's where the science is moving towards. That's why I say science is catching up with this ancient world.
So it is safe to say that if I am consuming functional mushrooms, I am taking a proactive approach towards my health.
Exactly.
Interesting.
That is one way of approaching it. We have customers who come to us who have quite severe illnesses, whether it's anxiety, depression, bone diseases, all sorts of things. ADHD is another big thing. And they are using our products to reduce the symptoms they may be suffering. Functional mushrooms are great as anti-inflammatory as well. So typically when something's wrong with your body, it's inflammation linked as well. So we really don't focus on that area because, the evidence is not strong enough. Although if you went through our customer database, you would find lots of incredible testimonials where that it has actually helped with that level of disease. We're really focused, like you say, on the proactive approach, the prevention aspect of it, and helping people function better every day.
So different mushrooms have different benefits. What's the dosage? How much should I consume to start feeling those benefits? And at what frequency? Daily, twice a day, once a week?
So we really believe in creating habits and routines around functional mushrooms. Some people think that you take something and then overnight there's this amazing reaction and sensation to expect. I think we live in this instant gratification society. When you think of things like Amazon Prime and getting a package the next day, it doesn't quite work like that with supplementation and these ancient ingredients. So I always say that, take it for 30 days and then you'll start to see the progress. You'll start to see the incremental benefits. After 90 days, you will really feel quite a significant transformation. And after about a year, you'll see your life is entirely changed. You've really got to commit to the habit. I see some people are more susceptible than others. I've given like lion's mane to people before, and 20 minutes later, they're like, I've never felt this focus before. Like and I actually had the same reaction the first time I had lion's mane. I remember 8 years ago when I first consumed it, I was walking down the street with my brother and I said, I've never felt this present in my life.
But do you build up a tolerance? So right now, if you were to take lion's mane, would you get the same feeling as you had 8 years ago?
No, but I feel like since I've been taking lion's mane, I have ADHD, right? I get easily distracted and I have to really focus on a task. I can't multitask. That's just something I've accepted, right? I think it goes for a lot of people as well. Focus and mental sharpness and mental performance is everything to me.
Yeah.
And since drinking lion's mane, I'd say that's like a superpower for me. So, if I stop taking it for a few days, I do notice a little bit of a drop, but ultimately, like, my body's got used to consuming this product. And as a result, I have this expectation that I'm just like always on it. Obviously, things like lack of sleep can affect that as well. So, if you have lack of sleep, if you have lion's mane, it's not going to totally influence your mental sharpness.
Yep.
But yeah, it's an ally in my life now.
So in Dirty, you have powder blends and gummies. Let's try your favorite one. I believe is the matcha flavor, right?
Yeah, Matcha's probably actually the coffee, but yeah, dirty matcha I have every day now mid-afternoon.
Let's try the dirty matcha.
Yeah, sure.
So if I want to have the lion's mane benefits, how often should I consume this? In the morning, in the evening, both?
So this dirty matcha one or lion's mane in general?
In general.
So lion's mane I'll have every morning, just because, like I said, it's the most important way to start the day because I want to be sharp, like I did before this podcast, right? But I'm having lion's mane multiple times a day, right? So I'll have it in the morning in gummy form. So the gummy right behind you, the lion's mane gummy.
This one?
Yeah, that one there. So that's 2,400 milligrams of lion's mane in 2 gummies.
You take this in the morning?
It's every morning.
But what if, for example, I do intermittent fasting? Would this break my fast?
It doesn't break your fast. No.
Really?
Yeah. It's also got like no sugar in it as well.
Okay.
You can try it and see what you think.
Yeah.
I'll also have a dirty coffee, which has got lion's mane in it as well, ashwagandha, maca. And then mid-afternoon, because basically there's only...
Should I take one?
Take 2, I'd say.
I take 2.
Yeah. Do you got hot water as well?
It is.
It's an apple flavour, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that 0 grams of sugar?
So if I take another one, I'm still not breaking my fast?
No, not at all. That's one of the biggest questions we get, actually. None of our products break the fast.
All right, so I just took these gummies. Should I feel something like within an hour, or it really takes time?
You have to tell me. Some people do. Some people could take about a week or 2 weeks.
Are there any side effects to these products, or generally within functional mushrooms?
There's 0 downside.
0 downside.
Yeah.
Can anyone take it? So if I have a child and my child is 10 years old.
Yeah, so that's a really good. Here's the hot water. So what? Shall I explain how I make it?
Yes.
So we actually have. So when you subscribe to Dirty, you get a welcome kit.
I want to try the other. Sorry.
You get like you basically get a welcome kit. So it's here. So you literally get this measuring spoon.
Yeah.
So we recommend taking 6 grams of the matcha. So you measure that out. You put it into a cup.
Okay.
You then use a little bit of hot water to kind of. You've had matcha before?
I did, yeah.
Yeah. So you basically put a little bit of hot water to create a paste. So just to make sure it
very good.
That one's really good. The chaga, right?
Yeah.
So 2 of those gummies is the equivalent of consuming 900 blueberries in terms of antioxidants.
I just had 6, by the way. Is that too much?
No, it's fine. So yeah, you just turn that into a paste, and then I like sort of most people like matcha as a matcha latte, right? So you just pour over some like steamed. Is this like oat milk or something?
Regular English cow.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I actually usually will put the powder in a steamer and let it steam up. Or it comes with it. We have an electric whisk with the welcome kit as well. So that is probably going to be very hot.
So what am I having? Should I feel the flavor?
So basically you've got organic ceremonial grade matcha. So it's like the highest quality matcha you can imagine. It's then blended with 2,500 milligrams of mushrooms. You've got lion's mane in there, which we just discussed, incredible for focus. And you've got tremella in there, which is basically holds up to 500 times its weight in water. So it's amazing for hydrating the skin.
And how much do you sell that package for?
If you subscribe, it's £38 a month.
£38 a month. And those are 30 servings, so it's roughly 1.8 more or less pounds is adding to my morning matcha.
Exactly.
How much is, if I want to have a regular matcha, how much is it?
Regular matcha?
Yeah. Is it
just
price competitive?
Look, I mean, we add more ingredients, so we're probably more premium as a product, and they're the highest quality. I mean, you can spend hundreds of pounds on a really high quality matcha, so it really ranges.
This would roughly last me for
a month.
Exactly.
Yeah. The whole idea is getting you into this routine and this habit of drinking functional mushrooms every day. The idea of the super blends, we call them. So we have coffee, matcha, chai, cacao.
Yeah.
The idea was to take drinks people already consuming every day. So 90 million people, 90 million cups of coffee are drunk every single day in the UK. So we've created a coffee, which people love to drink every morning. We've got 80% less caffeine in a normal cup of coffee because the mushrooms give you natural energy, so you don't need as much caffeine. One of the things people complain about coffee, they have a love and hate relationship with it, is that they feel like over-caffeinated. So we've reduced the amount of caffeine. You still get the taste and the boldness of a coffee, but you got the additional benefits of the functional mushrooms. So particularly the dirty coffee, you'll find that you will zone in a lot better. You won't get this like huge spike of energy and this crash. You'll get this more longer tail of energy, more slow releasing. I sometimes need a little bit more energy towards the end of the day, so that's when I have the dirty matcha. So it's more lion's mane. You get the matcha itself. It's also got the tremella, so it's great for your skin. It's got MCT in there. It's got moringa. So it's got all our products also have vitamins in. So the super blend side of the business is where a majority of our revenue comes from.
Does one need to follow a particular lifestyle in order to see or feel more evidently the benefits? Because, for example, if you can go to McDonald's and you see someone having like 3 Big Macs and then a Diet Coke. So definitely the Diet Coke won't make any difference whatsoever, whether it's regular Coke, I would assume, or Diet Coke. So if someone is not following a healthy lifestyle, so they drink regularly alcohol and perhaps they smoke and they don't eat very clean, would this still make a difference in their life?
Yeah, I mean, there's a component where you'd say like everything's good in moderation. I think if you're living a pretty bad lifestyle, it's going to cancel out the benefit of anything you do. These functional ingredients do help anyone for sure, but I think people have to make a real commitment to have a healthy lifestyle, right? Like I said, lion's mane, it's still going to help me, but no way as much if I have a bad night of sleep, right? That really affects me. So, my view is that if you're drinking lots of sugar, having sugar crashes, over caffeinating yourself, you're smoking, you're going out late at night, you're drinking alcohol, all these things are just going to cancel out the benefit of anything you're doing healthy. So it's all about having that lifestyle. Dirty really represents that ownership of health and having a healthy lifestyle. So yes, we are a product business, but also a source of inspiration and empowerment for anyone that wants to live that life. It's more of a way of life.
So you mentioned that functional mushrooms have been used in, usually, I believe you said Asia, for thousands of years. Why did it take so long for these products to arrive to the Western world?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really good question. I mean, I think, my view at, Dirty, we're not building a trend, we're building a movement. If you look at other movements that have
This would be your second movement then.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. First one was about nuts. This one's about mushrooms, right? Both nuts though. The world is sort of changing in terms of the way we view health. The access to information, the validation from scientists and doctors, social media, all these cultural tensions and shifts are playing towards the acceptance of something like this. If you look at, like in the 60s, for example, jogging was considered unhealthy and unnecessary. Imagine that, right? That's how they saw it in the 60s. Then around the 70s, it was popularized. You had doctors validating it, that it was good for cardiovascular health, for example. Then you started to see Olympic runners becoming celebrities and worshipped for having these incredible abilities and how they performed on TV and winning gold medals. Then you had Bill Bauman, he's the co-founder of Nike, who really got into the technician and the technical ability to improve your running through sneakers and trainers. And then you have brands like Nike who innovated the category and built incredible marketing, such as like Just Do It. I see the exact same thing happening in the wellness space. And I see Dirty as like the next Nike in the wellness space, because ultimately, You've got podcasts like, Joe Rogan, validating functional mushrooms. He's had people like Paul Stamets on his podcast as regular guests. Paul Stamets is the most famous mycologist that specifically studies functional mushrooms and fungi at large. You've got people going on social media talking about drinking dirty. I think when we started this, the biggest challenge we had is the misconception of mushrooms. So there's something called mycophobia, which is the irrational fear of mushrooms. So humans tend to disregard or even ignore things they don't understand. And to most at that point, people didn't understand fungi. So we started at a point where there was interest and a mindset around health. So people were interested in things that can improve their health. But the perspective of mushrooms was like, it's going to taste terrible. Is it going to make me high? Like, I remember when we did our first ever pop-up in Selfridges, say 90% of people that came said, is this going to make me feel funny? Is it going to make me high? And it's not psychedelics. These are functional mushrooms. So I think what's happened is that you're getting functional mushrooms are being validated at large. You've got a mindset of people who want to embrace healthier living. They want to wake up early in the morning, have these morning routines, so they're more open to things like this. And you've got a brand like ours that is investing in building a brand and marketing and educating and creating this market.
I'm trying to think what would be the best approach to get my friends to consume these mushrooms. So it's just like with a baby, right? A baby, you cannot offer a baby a piece of steak, right? You need to give it milk, and slowly and gradually then you introduce that baby or that child into more complex foods. If my friends are not used to consuming any functional mushrooms and then I immediately introduce them to 7 different types, lion's mane or turkey's tail, they're going to get very confused and they might not want to start because there are too many aspects to consider. If I were to choose one for a person that is a complete beginner in this journey, which one would you recommend?
I'm going to sound like a broken record, but lion's mane.
Lion's mane.
Yeah, lion's mane has something called nerve growth factor, NGF. It can actually activate the regrowth and regeneration of brain cells in hippocampus, which is the thinking part of the brain. Yeah, exactly. It's responsible for thinking, learning, memory, creativity. It has probably the most researched. It overtook collagen in terms of searches on Google. It's by far our best-selling product. We use it in every single blend as a non-negotiable. And you see pretty quick how good it is for your brain. The retention of that product for us is incredible. The growth of it is amazing. If I'm going to change people's mind about functional mushrooms, then will change their mind with lion's mane.
And have you considered blending all the most important functional mushrooms into one product?
Yeah, we have. We are looking at that.
Okay.
Yeah.
They need to come back to the show so we can talk about it.
Yeah.
Hi guys, just a quick one from me. We're very proud to partner with Bornbound, an innovative sports apparel brand. Exercising regularly is essential to becoming the best version of yourself. Bornbound nails it. They're designed with this cutting-edge nanotechnology, making them lightweight, breathable, and quick-drying. To help you get started, we've secured an amazing offer. Use the code that we're gonna leave here below for you to get 30% off Bornbound gear. I hope you take advantage of it and you unlock the best version of yourself. That's it from me. Now, we both need to get back to the episode. Thank you. So we've covered that you're not a nutritionist, you're not a biochemist. Fundraising was not an issue, in particular when it came to challenging having a university degree. I'm interested to know, from a high-level general perspective, the profile of the initial investors. Were these like very rich people that were into marijuana, or how did they look like?
So in terms of the fundraising process right at the beginning, I guess we had a head start because we had a lot of credibility. We had our first exit, which was summer before last. We had made a lot of people money. So there was a lot of trust. The idea of functional mushrooms becoming something of a mainstream back then, and it becoming a successful consumer brand. I'd say, I don't know if people that invest in our business believed in that. I think they believed in us. I think we had a great track record, and we were so passionate about functional mushrooms, and we knew how to market it. So I think that we had a head start on that basis. So it wasn't a struggle in the beginning. I think we actually raised the money in 1 week. So we raised just over $500,000 in 1 week, which enabled us to get the business started.
How long did that $500,000 last you?
It lasted us about 10 months.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. Well, we started making money straight away. It
Yeah.
worked straight away.
You started making revenue straight away or being profitable straight away?
No, we started making revenue.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
So, and anything we made, obviously, we put back into the business, into growing it.
Yeah.
You know, when we launched, it was ideal timing.
Yeah.
It's almost like when you're surfing, right? You know, you can be just before the wave and you can fall off your board. You can catch the end of a wave, or you can just get that perfect timing when the wave comes and you get up on your board and you ride that wave. That for me is the analogy that describes DIRTEA, a wave of functional ingredients and mushrooms, which is now massive. We were ahead of the curve.
Globally or in the UK?
Globally, mainly US. US was a lot more advanced than the UK. And still is. I'd say we built the market in the UK. I think others have built it in the US, which has given us an amazing opportunity to go there and build DIRTEA. We've done all the hard work in the UK, and we've created the category. We're the leading brand, and now I think we were essentially a lone wolf, and now there's hundreds of brands. I see a new one every single day.
And how is that affecting your business?
In a positive way. So there's more people speaking about functional mushrooms than just us. There's more people spending on advertising. I think competition is a really healthy thing. I think it drives us as a business as well. We don't sit still. I think to be the leader of a category and to maintain that leadership position, you have to constantly improve your products. You have to constantly innovate. You have to be a lot more creative. You have to outmaneuver your competition. It's like having a rocket up your ass, which is really important. It keeps you motivated, right? It's not like easy street, which is really important. And I think we'll be better for it. From a US perspective, it's a lot more easier for us because the market is a lot more educated. And therefore, we've already started our launch. You know, we're live in New York. We're in multiple stores. I think we should be in about 300 stores in the next 4 weeks. So it's growing very fast over there. I think the negative side of it is, I think I touched on this before, is that mushrooms is a big market now. I mean, it's going to be huge. It's going to be massive. It's going to be about a $36 billion revenue market. The unfortunate circumstances is the wider consumer
across multiple product ranges.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. The biggest concern and worry is that it's so easy to start, and it's people that want to make money, and they've got really low quality products.
Yeah.
I don't think that could be harmful, but people aren't getting the proper benefit.
I was reading a study about how the CBD trend plateaued, and it's exactly because of what you're mentioning, at least as far as this study is concerned. But CBD was sort of introduced to the Western world between 9 to 10 years ago, and there were some amazing brands. In fact, some brands that are right now quite, let's say, active, like for example Trip CBD, which I had the pleasure of interviewing one of the founders. They're very good, very premium brands. They communicate their unique selling proposition very well to the consumer. But this study was mentioning that the consumer trust declined because when CBD became very popular, it was accessible for new aspiring entrepreneurs to build up their CBD businesses, and some of these businesses were not premium enough, or they were a little bit dodgy or shady in communicating their supply chains or production process, and the side effects were not very good, and the products were not well tested, and this had effect on the overall industry. Do you think this can happen to the mushroom space?
I think in a couple of years, 80% of the brands that exist today won't be in existence. I think that the consumer is becoming a lot more discerning, a lot smarter, and they want to understand the category and the product and make more informed decisions. I think they care a lot more about the science, the credibility, the transparency. We put our right foot forward in terms of we're going to be doing it a lot more, and that is we're going to be very, very transparent about our mushroom extracts. So just for example, I'd say over 90% of the mushroom products on the market have filler, and probably around 50 to 80%. Actually, some of the biggest brands in the US have 80% filler in their products. So if they say they've got 1,000 milligrams of lion's mane mushroom, 800 milligrams of that is probably filler. That's just the start of it. The next component is...
How is that legal?
Because you don't have to put the fact that you have filler on the packaging. It's not regulated. It will be.
Interesting.
And I think it's going to happen really quickly because it's such a lucrative market. So hopefully regulation will come in really soon. I think it's up to us as a leading brand to educate the market, make people aware of these things, at least so they know that we don't have any filler. I think the next thing is that just because it says it's got the ingredient in the drink or the product or the powder or whatever it is, doesn't mean it has the active compounds. So one of the key compounds to look out for is something called beta-glucans. Beta-glucans are amazing for gut health. They're great for like immune modulation. We standardize our extract to have 40% beta-glucans, which is the highest in the industry, 40% plus.
Is that for the production process?
It's the way, so when you, they're called extracts because you actually extract the active compounds from the mushroom and then you put them into the powders, or into powder form. You can use a combination of different methods, hot water, cool water, ethanol. And that's how you get the compounds out from behind the cell walls. So that is, the production enables the compounds to be in the powders. I'd say that, people have like, in some cases, less than 10%, sometimes 0%.
Why did you decide to go for powders rather than pills?
For two reasons. One is absorption rate is very good, so you're getting those active compounds into the body and it's working. Two, from a lifestyle component, we're building a lifestyle brand. When we started, if you drank functional mushrooms, you're either a hippie or there was something wrong with you medically. We wanted to make DIRTEA a way to make functional mushrooms accessible to mass prestige sort of consumer, and we wanted to make it easily integrated into people's lifestyles. So the pure powders was a way for you to add the mushroom powder into something you're already doing, such as a smoothie, a coffee, a matcha, a hot chocolate. The blends were a way of you replacing something you're already drinking, such as your morning coffee. Here's a better way of doing it. Or a matcha you have as your second coffee or your second caffeinated drink. And the gummies were something that you didn't have to worry about measuring out the dose. You just take 2 gummies, you can have it on the go. It tastes nice. It's a lot more fun and a lot more it's a lot more easier than swallowing a capsule. Some people don't actually like swallowing capsules. So every product we've chosen is really intentional to be a lifestyle brand. And also, when I speak about lifestyle, I don't talk about like having a yoga girl holding our product in a yoga class. That's not lifestyle to me. Lifestyle to me is having it integrated into your lifestyle and creating a brand that people see as social currency. Like, people are proud to say they drink DIRTEA, almost lifts their spirits and their status within society.
And why did you call it DIRTEA?
So the reason we called it DIRTEA is because for many reasons. So one is it's fungi, the roots to everything, including earth itself and dirt. So in order for fungi to survive 1 billion years ago, when they came from the ocean to the dry land, they transformed rock into soil. So they ate the rock to survive. They turned that rock into soil, and that enabled plant life to come from the ocean to the dry land 200 to 300 million years later. So if it wasn't for fungi, there'd be no such thing as dirt and soil. There'd be no such thing as plant on earth. and everything that exists in this world, including us, would cease to exist. I mean, fungi are older than dinosaurs. They've outlived 5 extinctions, and they'll outlive the next. So that was one reason. The second thing was to have a name that was provocative, that no one would think. You know, I think it's really important to be bold in your marketing. So, you know, our packaging does extremely well in retail. It does so well on social media. People are intrigued. What is dirty? They want to learn more. And that's important because we want to educate more. So it leads people into this dirty world. And the third thing is that I love this paradox of something that's bad versus something that's good. And we feel like we're drawing away all these bad habits to create good habits. So there's like kind of the dirty me, the old me, you know, maybe going out all night, drinking alcohol, doing drugs, waking up with a hangover. And then there's the new dirty me, which is actually going to bed early, waking up early, you know, doing an ice bath, having a mushroom coffee, doing a Pilates class, and, you know, letting those things power you through the day rather than being sluggish because of a hangover.
I agree with you. I think you have a very distinctive branding and definitely name. I was last night with my girlfriend in Whole Foods, and I went to the shelf where they have various different functional mushroom products. And I have to admit, and it's not because you came to the podcast, but I had a lengthy conversation with my girlfriend about it because she's launching also a consumer business.
Okay.
Your brand by far stands out than the others for 2 reasons, at least for me as a consumer. On one hand, the name is very memorable. When I was leaving Whole Foods, I struggled to remember some of the other names, and I knew I had this episode today. So I wanted to have a few names to talk about, but I was like, damn, I don't remember those names. Like they're called like Vital something or Super Health or whatever, right? Like very like bland names that they could stand for anything else.
Yes.
But dirty is something that at least because of dirt and so on, you're gonna remember. And the color codes, I think it's risky, but I also think that you did it quite well because it could seem for like kids or, you know, like you might not take the brand seriously, but in fact it has the opposite. While it's quite colorful, the font and how everything is written in the packaging, it makes it look very professional. So it has the best of both worlds. So I made this little analysis yesterday with my girlfriend, and definitely is the brand that I left Whole Foods thinking about, because I also have that clear, dirty sort of logo in my head. If I think about the other brands, I swear I don't remember one of them. Where do you source your mushrooms from? Because probably a lot of people might think, well, I think this is a great business. I'm just going to grow them at home. Where do you source them from?
So all over the world. And the main source is 2 places. So one is Fujian, which is the South province of China. So 86% of the world's mushrooms never leave China. You know, it's been in their culture for like thousands of years, as I sort of mentioned. They're the most educated. They've advanced the production. They've advanced the science more than anyone else. We have a partnership with a farm which has been through 7 generations. So in terms of a family, the first maitake in the world was actually foraged there. I think we are one of a handful of brands that work directly with the owners of the farm network, and then the extractors, which is the production part, which we spoke about before. The advantage of that is we get to work directly with them to advance the technology and invest in making sure that we can create the best possible extracts, and that is making sure they're pure and they're clean and they have the active compounds. So that's where we get the majority. And then also Siberia. The reason for Siberia is the best chaga in the world, which is the one I mentioned with all these, it's an antioxidant powerhouse. It's the one that's like a great source of natural energy. Something really interesting about chaga is during World War II in Finland, they ran out of coffee, and they went to their birch forests and they cut down chaga, which grows on, it's a parasite actually that grows on birch trees. They cut it down and they turned it into teas, and they noticed it gave them more natural energy than caffeine, but it lasted longer. So chaga is actually really popular now in Finland. A lot of Finnish people mix the chaga in their coffee because it stops that crash. But in Siberia, they have the chaga with the most antioxidants. That's why I say when you take our dirty chaga gummies, it's the equivalent of consuming 900 blueberries in terms of antioxidants. But yeah, so Siberia has the best chaga. But we have like sources all around the world. So yeah, Finland's one, Canada's another. We do that to just diversify risk, making sure that there's never a bottleneck. And
can you grow this in the UK to reduce cost?
So it would be way too expensive. Yeah. So you'll very unlikely get a high quality mushroom if it's grown in the UK. The extraction process is really important as well. I think people are growing them in the UK. I doubt that they have the quality that we're able to get in Fujian.
Interesting, because I went last year with my partner, with my girlfriend, to Italy to do white truffle hunting, because we were quite curious to understand how the process is, and is a product that is recognized right now globally, but the process of extracting it's still quite old, and it seems still today to be the best process to extract these white truffles, which are also fungi. And I asked the person that was giving us the tour if this process could be done, or if you could plant these white truffles anywhere else in the world that might have similar conditions to that particular region in Italy, which is in Alba. And she said that you can, but it would take probably 40 to 50 years, because while you might have the right conditions like humidity, exposure to sun and so on, what makes the biggest difference is the quality of the soil. So it's sort of like genetics. So if in that soil they've been growing white truffle for 200 years, the quality of that white truffle is going to be uncomparable, the smell, the taste, and so on, to anything that you're going to grow, for example, here in the UK. So it's going to take you a long time to reach that quality. Would you say this is a comparable analysis with functional mushrooms?
Yeah, no, it's exactly the same. So one of the beauties of working with the farm network in Fujian is that the quality of the soil, the purity of the air, the temperature hasn't changed in, I think it's a century. So the consistency of those components is what's enabled them to grow at that sort of scale.
Interesting. So that's something that I'm going to be looking for when it comes to buying these products. Anything that is not grown in China perhaps won't be the number one option. All right, so we covered that. Now, let's go back to DIRTEA as a company. You launched this in 2021. In 2024, it became one of the fastest growing wellness brands online. Now, rapid growth could be attributed to a number of things. Could be related to timings, as you said. So you're one of the first ones to enter the market and you capture a big market share. It could be related to luck, or it could be related of having a lot of resources to start with, which from what I understood, 500,000, I don't think it would be the driving factor. It could be related to strategy, go to market, governance, execution. To what do you attribute this rapid growth?
So many things. So I think having, firstly, a great product is the most important thing. It doesn't matter how good the marketing and the branding is. Product is the most important thing, because ultimately you can acquire a customer, but you're going to retain them. Are they going to recommend you? Are they going to come back every month? That's the most important thing. Marketing is as important. So being able to deliver your message, being able to emotionally connect with the audience, being able to provide the education so they understand, like I said, the mycophobia, like people didn't understand functional mushrooms before we started marketing the product and the ingredients. So providing the education is really key. I think distribution is key as well. Whilst we haven't yet gone into supermarkets and big chains, although we're in places like Boots, distribution is really key. So particularly in London, I think we show up wherever our community is, whether it's Soho House, the Berkeley Hotel. We've got a collaboration partnership with Attis at the moment. Attis?
Yes.
Yeah. We're everywhere. That's what everyone always tells me. DIRTEA literally shows up everywhere. So like distribution is key. So product, marketing, distribution. Then knowing how to connect with people through social media, having a good strategy, having a clear message, being able to create content every day that people are going to find valuable, building a community. People live and die by our brand. They're super loyal, partly because of the product, but also they love the mission. They love being part of our ecosystem. Capital's really key. We raised $500,000 in the beginning, but we've raised a lot more of that since. You have to have the capital, otherwise you can't grow.
It's interesting everything you're saying, because this brings me back to 3 different episodes that we discussed this particular topic. So episode 1 was I've interviewed the founder of one of Europe's biggest nut butter companies. Another episode was interviewing one of UK's leading CBD companies. And then the third one is the founder of a venture capital that acquires consumer brands. And they all had 2 common denominators, which are very similar to what you were saying. Number 1, common denominators when it comes to having successful consumer products. Number 1 is the quality of the product. As simple as that. You need to be building a product that is incredibly good, better than any other product in the market. And then number 2 is storytelling. So in your case, you're not selling products. You're selling a lifestyle, wellness. And that's a storytelling. Also through you and through your brother, which we're going to talk about shortly. But I see those 2 things also happening in Dirty. So it's quite enriching to identify from various different entrepreneurs cross-industry that there might be some recipes to success, because sometimes when you venture into a business, you're like, well, this strategy worked for company A, but this other strategy worked for company B. Where do I start? But there are some baselines that, especially in today's day and age, if you apply them, you can be a little bit ahead than your competition. Now, you've been operating this company for 4 years now.
Coming up, yeah.
It's successful. But even the most successful, high, fast growing companies, they face challenges. What's the biggest challenge you faced?
Biggest challenge we faced, we took off very quickly. We gained traction right off the bat. I think it's very rare for that to happen for a startup almost 4 years ago. I think partly because we had a lot of experience already. We've been in the battlefields before, right? We knew what to expect. And there's been limited surprises, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So I think the interesting thing is we grew really quickly, faster than I ever could have imagined. I think we were the fastest growing brand in the world in 2023 on Shopify, which was like mad to see. Oh. It was 100, the top 100, we were number 1. I couldn't believe it. There was like Sol de Janeiro was on there. Skims was on there. Obviously Skims is growing from like
you
1
said this
billion
was in
to 1.2.
Which year was this? Sorry?
2023.
Okay.
Obviously these companies are growing from, we were obviously growing from 0 to whatever that number is. So what ends up happening is you don't have time to like look at things. You're just racing forward and just trying to keep up with the demand, right? Yeah. So, we had lots of teething issues, like going out of stock, issues with packaging. I remember there was a point where the supply chain really messed up and we were out of stock for 6 weeks, which is really painful. We got like terrible, Trustpilot, got terrible reviews on Trustpilot, was very worried we were going to lose like all our subscribers, didn't know if we were going to last it. But I remember I think it was a team of 4 or 5 at the time. And I remember we were all like talking to customers on email, apologizing, saying we could get them their product. You got to think as well, people relied and depended on this, right? Particularly if they had something like ADHD and they can't get their lines made. That was a really scary moment and I wasn't sure we were going to recover it. But we did. And since then, we've made it like a mission to make sure we never, ever go out of stock. This is a hot product. People love it. They're going to keep wanting it. So I think before we probably ordered for just enough to fulfill the demand, we now order for 6 months in advance, which has been amazing.
But you couldn't have known that when you launched.
No, exactly. Yeah. I think in addition to that, we had a lot of, we were leading the business and had a lot of junior people working with us. Mm-hmm. Like I know my expertise are kind of everything from like packaging to the consumer, right? That's kind of what I still focus on today. I really understand how to like build a business, build a brand, and really drive that vision. What I've learnt from previous entrepreneurs I've worked with is that you should never let egos get in your way. And you know, one of my favorite quotes from Richard Branson is like, hire the best people you can find and get the fuck out of the way. So about a year ago, no, probably just under a year ago, we started to hire expertise. So people have done this before for other brands. And they came in and they teared the business apart. They looked at the data and they said, you're doing so much right, but you're also doing quite fundamental things wrong. And that was quite scary to see, right? You look at that bleak picture. Thank God it was caught then. It wasn't caught in like 5 years or 2 years time or whatever, and it would have been a big problem. So that was the business being challenged by new people coming into the company.
Are these more related to more junior subject matter expert roles or senior roles at the C-suite level?
Kind of executive level, I wouldn't say C-suite, lower than C-suite, but just like with skill sets in their particular craft, and they've probably got like 5 to 6 years minimum. So like seasoned executives that have done it before 2 or 3 times. And they came in and they shifted the business around over a course of 3 months, and it's been transformative. It's very clear to understand where we're going and what the future lies, and everything is very strategic and everything's very calculated, rather than just like seeing what comes from the momentum. Now we know exactly where we're going, we know how much money we're spending, we know how much money we're making or going to make. So I think that was kind of key, and that was probably preventing something scary from happening. So that my recommendation is, as soon as you get to that point of becoming a scale up, is you've got to professionalize things. Just because you got there as an entrepreneur, you know, that is the hardest part. Bring in those experts really quickly and listen to them. Continue to drive the vision, because no one else can do that better than you, but bring in those experts. So that's been really key for us.
The founder of Gymshark did something very similar, but at the top level. So he removed himself as a CEO and he onboarded someone that did something quite similar before. Would you consider that too?
No, because I think we've now got a team. We've got a great CEO now. Her name's Jess. She was COO of the business. She really understands how to manage the team.
She's the CEO now.
She's the CEO
okay, so
now.
you've done this.
Yeah.
Okay.
So she's the CEO now. So she's very good at like managing the team. She's a great operator. She works really well under pressure. She's a very safe pair of hands. She has equity in the business. So
were you or your brother the CEO prior to this?
Yeah.
Okay.
So so the way I kind of see it is that she runs everything up to packaging, and I run everything packaging to the consumer.
Yeah.
So the founders are about the vision, the long term, whereas the CEO is about the short term. So we're about the strategy and the vision and the brand and the relationship with the consumer, and the CEO is about running that operation. So now we're in a situation where there is someone that's very good at what they do, that can run that business and operate it. And my brother and I can go and launch a new market and not be worried about what's going on in the office in terms of like having to be there. It means that, you know, I can go to raise money from investors. I can go and meet with a potential brand partner that could transform the business in terms of distribution or some form of a collaboration. I can constantly move the business forward without worrying about the day to day. That makes sense.
It does 100%.
And that's about removing the ego. Like, obviously it was a dream of me to be a founder CEO, but actually I am much more valuable growing the business and driving the vision and thinking about packaging to consumer than thinking about supply chain and ops and the organization and managing the team.
You've co-founded DIRTEA with your brother. I co-founded my business with my twin brother. What are the advantages and disadvantages of doing this?
working with your brother. I mean, with
Starting a business with your brother.
Yeah. I think most people would like look at us, go like, "How the hell do you do that?" Because you know, siblings. There's a sibling rivalry. You know, it's very easy to fall out. You know, there's real blurred lines in terms of the way you probably talk to each other. How you might talk to a business partner that isn't a relative very differently, right? But it works really well with my brother. We have very different skill sets. And I think we have so much respect for each other. We have each other's back, and we almost work for each other. Like, I think there's lots of business relationships that break down because money gets in the way, ego gets in the way, and it falls apart. And that close business partnership could turn into enemies, right? That's like never going to happen with my brother and I. Also, you know, you can be vulnerable, right? With your brother, you can be in your lowest moments, and you've got someone to turn to that isn't just your brother, but is in the business with you as well. So it understands the entire dynamic. I think trust is a big thing as well. Like, I trust my life with my brother. I don't know if many business partnerships can use words to that level.
What's the age difference between both of you?
6 years.
6 years.
So he's my older brother.
Did he ever treat you as an older brother in the business? As in, I know more than you because I'm more experienced.
I think an older brother. So I've definitely got a way of thinking and a skill set that's very different to him. So in some instances, I'll be a lot quicker and faster to get to an answer or make a decision, whereas in other areas, he'll be a lot quicker and faster than me. So sometimes if I'm taking the lead, there's a level where, you know, older brother syndrome will kick in. And I think he's learnt to like retract from that. But we've never really had an interest, difficult in the dynamics. I think my brother is incredibly patient, which has probably been the secret gold dust to our relationship. I think patience is really key in any relationship. Like, you probably find that same with your girlfriend as well. I have that with my girlfriend. We're very patient and understanding with each other. So to have that with my brother is amazing. I often talk about this, how, you know, why do I have such a good relationship with my brother and how are we able to work with each other? And it's entirely down to him, because I was the younger brother at the beginning of our relationship. And he, you know, as an older sibling, you get the options to either, or the choice to either reject that younger annoying sibling or to take that sibling under your wing and mentor them and show them the world. And that's exactly what my brother did with me. Even 6 years difference. If you think, when he was 20, I was 14, right? And he still, you know, I went on nights out with him and he showed me the world. He introduced me to people. He taught me everything. And that's the reason we have such a tight bond now.
How did you distribute the responsibilities?
So I'm very much focused on the overall strategy of the business, and I'm focused on the brand. So anything to do with brand, marketing, as entirely is what I focus on. And then my brother's all about community. So community is a huge part of what we do. We think community is everything in our brand, the way we connect people together, the way we connect with the customer, and also the way we retain them within the business, the way we get them to spend more money with us, the way we get them to get onto subscription, for example, which we're starting to refer as our members. That's everything he does. So a lot of what I do is about acquiring the customer. He's all about retaining the customer. I'm not to do with emotional connection through the way we distribute content, deliver marketing. He's all about emotional connection in the way we have conversations with our audience and engage with our audience.
And that was a distribution from day one.
Yeah, exactly.
Interesting.
Yeah.
If you could talk to your younger self and give yourself one advice to even have a better relationship, working relationship with your brother, even a better one, what would you advise your younger self?
I'd probably take learnings from him and say I should be more patient, because I can get quite frustrated and annoyed, and I move at such a quick pace that sometimes I just need to stop and listen and sometimes explain myself. I always had a sort of problem that my brain works quite quickly, and I feel that having to explain everything to someone I find it very frustrating and I find it time consuming, but actually that's where a breakdown comes in a relationship. So I think if I was to speak to my younger self, I'd probably say like have more patience and empower my brother more, which he does incredibly well with me. And I could be a lot better. I am a lot better today at that, but I could be a lot better than that. My brother's like an angel compared to me.
And in business,
yeah.
What's the biggest lesson you've learned?
The biggest lesson I've learned. I mean, there's so many. What the biggest lesson I've learned?
If you have a child and your child wants to start a business and you need to give your child one advice, just one, an essential one, drawn from your experience, what would it be?
I think I've gone wrong when I've not listened to my instincts. And when my instincts have probably said, this isn't a good idea, we shouldn't be doing this, I don't do this anymore, but in the past I've sort of disguised that and kept moving forward, and it's catched up with us or catched up with the business. I've done that a few times in my career, and it's caught up, and I was like, fuck, I should have said something. That's probably one of the biggest lessons I've learned. Don't know if that connects with you at all or makes sense, but
it does to an extent. I am very data driven on one hand, because while I'm right now an entrepreneur in the hospitality space, my background is in strategy consulting, so it is very data driven. And I found that some of the best technique in this case to convince my brother, for both of us to be on the same page to decide on a particular topic, is to be data driven. So come in with the data backing up your decision. If I were to go to him with a gut feeling, I would then perhaps would like to take the approach of your brother, maybe having a different approach towards the relationship and empowering each other. I think the synergies of twins are slightly different because we are competitive by nature, which is something that it can be challenging in business. It's something that we have improved. I definitely have to admit that, but it can be challenging.
I'd probably say, because I feel like that was such a bad answer. I think I'd say the biggest lesson I'd probably learn is to follow your heart.
Yeah.
And I'd probably say when I have kids, is I will make sure that they follow their heart, because firstly, I think they should do something they love and they enjoy. It doesn't matter what it is, but I'd want them to be like number one and the best at it. And the only where you can become number one and the best is if you are really intensely passionate about it and you love it. I think everyone in life should follow their heart, and I think they'll be a lot happier. I think there's an amazing sort of convergence between being really curious about something, being really passionate about something, and then finding something that the world needs, like a problem solving. And if you can find a way that all those things connect up, then that's where you find your purpose, and that's where you sort of follow your heart.
I fundamentally agree with you. Mainly, if I were to compress that into one benefit, is because if you love what you do, then that's going to prevent you from quitting. And I fundamentally believe that quitting is the only barrier in between you and your goals being achieved.
100%.
Also, when you came to this morning to record, I immediately identified you as part of the brand. So your brand is about wellness, but not only about traditional wellness, but being open-minded to try new things and innovate. And immediately, by the way that you greeted the team and the way you dress up, and the way you carry around yourself, you give this feeling. I was researching some of your habits, and I was particularly interested in your morning routine. Now, I'm a very health conscious person. I work out religiously 5 to 6 times a week, probably too much. I follow a very particular type of diet. I do intermittent fasting and so on. But I was still quite surprised by how intense your morning routine is. I would like for anyone that is listening to it to understand how it looks like. So walk me through the moment that you wake up all the way until you go to the lake and you swim with your team and you hold hands and walk me through it.
Okay, so I want to also put it out there that the person with the extreme morning routine is my brother. He's at the lake way more than me. So he's the best one to always ask this question, but I think my morning routine's a lot more accessible than his.
Okay, let's go with yours.
So I'll wake up at 6 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
The first thing I do is have water with Celtic salt.
Mm-hmm.
It's so important to get salts in your body. Celtic salt is the best salt you can have, way better than sodium. Himalayan salt's good as well. You've been asleep for 7 to 8 hours. Your body needs a shower. That's why you have to hydrate. So I have anywhere between 500 milliliters and a liter of water. I will then go and take a bunch of supplements that you have on an empty stomach. Supplements I take are all about mental performance, all related to like having good cholesterol, having good gut health. And then I will make my way to my dirty counter and I'll start to make my functional mushroom recipes. So I have the dirty coffee. I add tremella powder into there, which is really good for your skin, and chaga, which is great as a source of natural energy. So I'll then drink that as my morning coffee. I'll then have the dirty gummies. I have the dirty cordyceps gummy because I work out in the morning. So the cordyceps gummy has something called ATP, or it helps with the production of ATP. It's got active compound called cordycepin. It can increase the lung capacity, helps get oxygen through the body to the muscle tissues, the organs and the cells. If you work out, I'd say it's an absolute game changer. Your endurance levels are mad. I can do a 2-hour workout when I have cordyceps. I can run longer than I've ever run in my life on cordyceps. It's the secret weapon to any workout. You can lift heavier weights, gives you more strength. So I have that, and also I have creatine as well, which is amazing. I think you said you have it. Sometimes it makes you a bit too big. So that's kind of all my supplementation done. I then stretch. So I'll do 15 minutes of stretching. I used to disregard stretching because I found it really boring. But then I started to get all sorts of problems, mainly in my back, particularly my lower back. And I realized I wasn't flexible at all. So I've started to stretch every single morning for 15 minutes.
No cold showers. That's your brother.
No, I do. But I do ice baths.
Ice baths.
Yeah. So, my brother will either do cold shower, ice bath, or go to the lake. So I will, then I go to the gym.
Yeah.
So I really focus on more like HIIT, high intensity workouts, because I think it's so important to have a really strong heart. I really believe that. Like my dad, fortunately, had a heart attack about maybe 20 years ago, and ever since then I really look after my heart. He's fine now, by the way. And then I will either have an ice bath. They have them at my gym now. It's called Brass Monkey. It's the best ice bath you can go into. I'll do a minute for every degree of water, degree of temperature in the water. So that's what the guide is. Anything under 10 degrees is good. Typically the ice bath's about 3 degrees, so I'll do 3 minutes. If it's a weekend, I'll rather do the ice bath. I'll go to the Serpentine Lake with my brother. He goes way more than me, but we go into
Serpentine Lake as in Hyde Park.
In Hyde Park.
Yeah.
And we'll go swimming in open waters in the lake.
Like now in January, February, you would go also.
More so. And you can get 0 degrees in there and it's freezing, but you feel amazing mentally when you come out. And we do that. There's a lot of members of the Dirty Tribe. That's our community that will come and join us as well. So it's a good way to connect and engage with our community. And then I will, get changed, have a shower, and I get to the office and I begin my day.
Jesus. Some people might be thinking, how long does this take? Is it you wake up
at
3 a.m.?
If I do all of it, it's like a 2 to 3 hour routine. Okay. I might do 50% of it, depending. Yeah. The thing is, so for today we're recording this podcast, and that means I've taken out hours of the working day. So I'll have to do this work, the work that I've missed, I'll have to do it at night, which means I might have to go to bed, 11, 12, midnight, maybe even 1 a.m., depending on how much I've got to do. That means I've then sacrificed my full morning routine. The gym part is non-negotiable for me.
Yeah.
I think it gets me fired up for the day.
Yeah.
I think everything firing on all cylinders is really important. So I'll make sure I get up early enough. If I have to get to the office late at 10 a.m., it's
How long have you
routine.
been following this routine?
I've had a morning routine for 8 years.
That looked like this.
It's grown significantly. The stretching component is 8 months old. The ice is about 3 years. Yeah, I think I've been doing like ice therapy for 3 years. Supplements have grown. I think I probably a year ago took about 8 supplements. Now I take about 20. So yeah, it's evolved, it's grown, I've tested. I get inspired by others and I get inspired by what works.
Can you give me 3 benefits from this routine?
3 benefits.
Yeah.
I never used to be productive in the morning. I'd get to the office and I'd be super sluggish. It would take me from 12 to run 1 before I actually get into the day. I'm firing on all cylinders. From, like, I'd probably feel pretty low in a mood from a mood perspective, stressed out. So one thing I don't like, I like to be ahead of the day. I don't like if I see people who are, I live in White City, so people coming out of the station, getting to the office, that means I'm behind. I like to be before everyone else, so I get ahead of the day. So starting sort of with this morning routine, if I'm before everyone else, it just feels like I've got an advantage, like mentally, and I'm not rushing. I hate to rush. I like to take my time. I like the organization, the structure, the system. If I have the system in the morning, it means I have the system throughout the day when it comes to my work, and I just feel more organized. I don't feel like I'm chasing my tail.
So organized, energized.
Yeah.
One more.
I said the mood.
Okay.
Yeah. So mental mood, firing on all cylinders.
Yeah.
And what did I say?
Organized.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
yeah.
A system, organized.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Interesting. Let's talk about Forbes. So you made it to Forbes list. And for some people, this had an effect in their business performance, but to some others, it didn't. Did being in Forbes contribute to DIRTEA's growth in one way or another?
I think a lot of these things are like credibility and validation, and I've collected a lot of that throughout my working life. So I think getting on the list was always a kind of a dream for a young age, because it was almost like, obviously it's Forbes, right? And it's 30 under 30. So it almost validates you're a genuine entrepreneur. It's probably the stepping stone to eventually get on some kind of rich list, which is a real genuine thing, because they look at obviously like your financial data. Actually, I think I think that Forbes actually look at a little bit of that, don't they?
They do look at the financial data of the company.
That's right, of the company. I don't know if it's helped me. No one's ever, no one's ever given me an opportunity because I got on the list, if that makes sense. But I think it gives you a credibility. As soon as I meet someone and they say on 30 under 30, I take them more seriously. So maybe people take me more seriously.
Okay.
But yeah, for me, from a young age, I've always wanted to be validated. I've always wanted to like win things. Like, I'm extremely competitive. So any opportunity like that to claim an award or a recognition, I guess it's great for your self-esteem, your confidence, your credibility. And probably for like our age, Forbes 30 under 30 is probably the best thing that you can probably achieve to get that first recognition of entrepreneurship.
What I want for people to understand from your particular answer in relation to Forbes is that you don't need to go to university to make it to Forbes. If Forbes is a goal of yours and you want to make it to the list, going to university is not part of the recipe to make it. Andrew, this is quite a complex question. It may sound simple, but it's quite complex and multi-layered. How would you define success?
It's a great question. I think success is a whole variety of things. I think one of the first things people say is like, when it comes to sex, they think about the monetary value. I think once you've made money, you realize it's not fulfilling. It just enables you to do anything that you want, right? To live the lifestyle, to start another business, to invest in other people's companies, which is great. There's amazing liberation that comes from that, right? But that's not success. I mean, if I look at my business to investors, to the market, it's all about revenue. It's all about profit. You know, like a successful business is something that exits, right? And we haven't exited yet. So for me, even though people say that DIRTEA is one of the most successful consumer brands in the UK, for me, I can't really connect and relate to that until we've sold it or it's gone public. That's when I go, right, that was a success, right? For me, though, success is about happiness. Like, all I want to do is be happy. So I do things to make me feel happy. The business being successful or achievements within the business, that makes me happy. Spending time with my family, that makes me happy. Spending time with my girlfriend and going on trips and holidays, that makes me happy. Being able to do something I love every day, which is I get to wake up every day and have another day building DIRTEA, that like makes me happy. That's kind of like success, right? A lot of people talk about is it the journey or the destination, right? And I think it's actually both. I think the journey is more exhilarating. You have ups and downs. When you get to the destination, it's kind of all over, right? And you've got to start something new. I think relationships and friendships and the people you meet along the way are actually the best part of it. You know, if I look back on the journey so far, whether it's my career, my life, building DIRTEA, it's actually the relationships and connections I've got through that. And those relationships are what create this indelible mark. I think when we all turn to dust and you look back, what was the best part of your life? It's those relationships and connections with the people that you end up loving, whether they're friends, whether it's your partner, whether it's your family, your brother. That's what really matters to me. So I think there's a lot that I can define as success, but actually I think the relationships we build with others is what constitutes success for me.
According to this definition, would you consider yourself successful?
I've had successes. Successful, I don't think I'd ever claim that until DIRTEA reaches the ambitions we set from the beginning. So DIRTEA's been massively successful in the eyes of others. You know, it's generated a lot of revenue. We have loads of subscribers. We're in, you know, big stores where it's chains like Boots, or, you know, we have a concession in Selfridges. These are amazing milestones and achievements to me. They're successes to other people. We set ourselves a goal. We've got a way in which we want this journey to go and end and culminate. Until that happens, that's when I'll say, like, yeah, I'm successful.
Thank you. Thank you, Andrew, for coming. I personally appreciate any progress at the global scale which is related to well-being or wellness. So I honestly welcome your products with open arms into my lifestyle. When you look at the progress and the transformation cross-industry that happened over the last 10 years, you can clearly identify one industry which has been transformed the most, which is either food and beverage or the link with the well-being sector, by far. Right now, we live in a day and age in which consumers are very much aware of what they put into their bodies, and they want to be healthier, live longer, and live a more meaningful life through everything that is food related. I think that launching a brand like yours with functional mushrooms, which is something that in a way is still new to the general population, at this point in time is the best moment to do it, because consumers are more open to try new things related to wellness. And I think that, paired with your charismatic leadership, which is undeniable, as well as the amazing branding that you have, which I personally believe it's very good, are three important factors towards DIRTEA's rapid growth and success. So congratulations to that. And I really look forward to seeing all of my friends, even without me telling them, or even without them having watched this episode, just naturally going into utilizing and consuming your product. So thank you for that.
Thank you so much. That was amazing.